Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Thanks so much for being here. As always, today we've got Patrick Tobler back on the channel, founder of NFT Maker, fantastic project in the Cardano space around NFTs, runs the Babel pool. Make sure you're delegating to that if you aren't already. Patrick, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me on such a short notice.
Yeah, no, this was sort of an ad hoc thing, but I wanted to talk today about Cardano NFTs. Talk from your perspective, someone who's working in the NFT space in Cardano. What really makes it unique. So I think the best place to start really is talking about the foundation of NFTs on Cardano, which is very different than most other blockchains, right? You look at something like Ethereum, where a lot of NFT work is being done. It's definitely impressive. All NFTs are built using smart contracts, right? And so there's obviously costs associated with that. There's, the standards are pretty good, but it's definitely a lot different than Cardano, where NFTs are minted at the base layer, right, on the ledger itself, a multi-asset ledger. So how does that sort of change the approach for someone like you who has a service that mints NFTs?
Yeah, I mean, the most obvious answer is, of course, that it's all a lot cheaper than
Yeah.
minting on Ethereum at the moment. I mean, Ethereum is trying to solve all these problems, but they're not quite there yet. I hope they do well and fix that. But at the moment, it's just unfeasible as like a small
Yeah.
artist to just go onto Rarible or whatever other Ethereum site and then mint your NFT and then have to pay like 100 euro or dollars for the minting costs alone, which is just completely insane. And
Mhm.
it's the complete opposite of what you want from like a decentralized open ecosystem, right? You want
Yeah.
everybody to be able to participate. So on Cardano, it's interesting because it allowed for a very different like genre of NFTs. We're seeing a lot of these like 10,000 NFT drops
Hmm.
or something like that. So where people mint like large collections. We did the unsigned algorithms with like 31,000 NFTs, which on Ethereum would have cost like millions to mint alone.
Yeah.
And on Cardano, it was still expensive a little bit, but not especially from the transaction cost side. And it's a lot more doable, which makes it great. And then also, I think there are a few other things to consider because NFTs are treated the exact same way as ADA on Cardano. So that's
Hmm.
the interesting point here. Not only NFTs, but every single token on Cardano is treated the exact same as ADA. So you
Hmm.
can see them in all of your wallets. You can treat them the same way. You can send them the same way. You can use them in smart contracts the same way. So that makes it extremely interesting. And I think we will see like a lot of innovation around that once smart contracts come out as well. So I'm really excited for this different approach. It's like totally different from Ethereum.
Yeah, and I think different is really good, right? Because like you mentioned before, like I think it's good that Ethereum has set the stage for all of this, and I do think it will continue to succeed. But I think Cardano and there are some other layer one blockchains that are doing some really cool things that I think will all coexist and create different platforms for people to work on. But you mentioned something that I think is really interesting, and it's a point that I think very few people actually think about in terms of NFTs on Cardano, and it's that it's a native multi-asset ledger, and therefore all tokens, fungible, non-fungible, and then the native cryptocurrency and ADA, they're all treated equally and they're all transacted largely the same way. And you can actually see them in your wallets. That's something that you don't really get right now. I think one of the big user experience issues with NFTs is that you have to have a special wallet to see NFTs in certain ecosystems because you have all these different smart contracts. It becomes very difficult to keep track of all the different NFTs as new ones are created. And so I think is that a distinct advantage in your mind as to being able to really synthesize people's NFTs into one spot?
For sure. I mean, that's a huge advantage, and it allows for so much interactivity for the NFTs. I think
Mm-hmm.
NFTs on Cardano are going to be utilized much more than just art,
Mm-hmm.
because even if they're just art NFTs, you can still take them and write a smart contract for them and use them on swaps and use them on, I don't know, games, whatever you want. And
Mm-hmm.
you basically build a whole ecosystem around NFTs in the later stages. And then, the wallets are a bit difficult because at the moment, the two main wallets, Yoroi and Daedalus, they're both awesome, but they're not really good with NFTs. They don't
Yeah.
really like display them as images, which is understandable because it's a security risk as well.
Hmm.
But like Daedalus especially is really bad at displaying
Yeah.
tokens in general. They have this crazy centralized token registry handled by the Cardano Foundation, which a lot of people, like me, don't really understand and don't really want.
Yeah.
And if you're not in there, then your token doesn't get displayed correctly in Daedalus. So there are many pain points here,
Hmm.
but it's getting better, and there's much innovation coming. Like Nami Wallet, for example, is a great one, which actually displays the NFTs as images inside of your wallet. So that's just brilliant.
It's awesome. Yeah, Nami Wallet is a fantastic project. I don't think people fully grasp how important it's going to be here in the near future, related to interacting with tokens and NFTs, and more importantly, smart contracts when we get towards that September timeframe. So the other thing I wanted to ask you, Patrick, is from with your tool NFT Maker, and you're working on version 2 of that tool. Am I correct?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that is basically a way for people to go on a web service and mint NFTs to their heart's desire on the Cardano network. What are some of the, I guess, what are some of the processes behind the scenes that your tool automates for people that they would otherwise have to do themselves in the maybe in the command line interface, or what have you?
Yeah, I mean, there are a few components that basically make the NFT. So
Mm-hmm.
one of the components there would be the metadata.
Mm-hmm.
That's like what's stored inside of the blockchain, and that's the heart. That's the important part where the image is referenced, or maybe the title is referenced, and the
Mm-hmm.
author name and description, whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
And we have this nice metadata standard that has been evolved since we started having NFTs on Cardano, and it's
Mm-hmm.
been getting better and better. And we are, of course, using that. And basically, each NFT that will be created on NFT Maker automatically puts all the information that you want inside of this metadata standard, so that it's compatible with all the marketplaces and compatible
Mm-hmm.
with PoolPM and other tools. And then the second part is actually the policy. So on Cardano, we have this thing called policy scripts,
Mm-hmm.
which basically define who is allowed to mint an NFT. So most basic policy would say, okay, Patrick is defined to mint NFTs under this policy. Then to make the NFTs actually non-fungible, we
Mm-hmm.
go one step further and say, okay, we put a date on it, and we say Patrick is allowed to mint these NFTs before this date X. And after that date, basically the policy is unusable, and there's no way to mint or burn any new tokens under this policy. So that's how we ensure that it's really an NFT, and NFT Maker also automates that. And
Mm-hmm.
then the actual minting process, like creation process, where you combine all of that and then send the transaction out and create the token and send it to the users. So yeah, basically all the important steps in one.
Nice, nice. And then, thinking about too, one of the bigger pain points in the NFT space right now, like broadly, if for most different blockchains, it's, when you have a lot of the components, the metadata components, particularly the media, off of the chain, right? Stored somewhere else. There's this concern, okay, well, if that's the case, like my token and some of the metadata might be immutable or at least tamper evident on the blockchain, but the rest of it could disappear, it could get deleted, it could be, misappropriated somehow. Is there maybe a methodology or room in on the Cardano blockchain to start delivering like on-chain, fully on-chain metadata from your perspective, or is there still this need to store the majority? Like obviously you're not going to put a movie on the Cardano blockchain, but you know, certain imaged information and things like that.
I mean, yeah, there is definitely room for that. I mean, that's what we did with the
Yeah.
unsigned algorithms, where I was on the show before. Um, so it's definitely possible, but it's very clear that it doesn't work for all approaches. It's very
Yeah.
hard to store an image like that. So it's maybe done for very, very important documents.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there's nothing wrong with using IPFS and all the other decentralized file storage solutions, in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
because they're not really um, they're really good, and you can't really tamper with them. So once
Mm-hmm.
the file is on there, you cannot change the file, or else the link would change. And then it's not the
It's
same file
obvious.
anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even if it goes offline, you can always put it back online, and then it will be reachable under the same address. So that's the cool
Mm-hmm.
part about it. About it, and there are many other really good file storage solutions like
Mm-hmm.
StoreJ and you know Airweave and all that stuff. So I think there will be lots of room to bring these in and build bridges from Cardano to them, and then we will have the need to use them. The blockchain is not designed for storing just files. So
Raw
yeah,
files. Yeah.
exactly.
Yes. And I mean, there's always this point in everyone's journey, I think, in this space where you might think that that's the case, right? Like that if you buy a movie on an NFT marketplace, that the movie is stored on the blockchain,
Yeah,
whereas
we
it
all
just
thought that at the
yeah,
beginning.
it wouldn't be feasible. But cool. No, thank you for that context. I think it's important for everyone. Like when you go to a new blockchain, you're thinking about the mechanics of what you're interacting with to kind of understand what the limitations are and what the patterns are. And that being said, when you're looking at sort of the evolution of DeFi in Cardano, which should be around in the fall, do you see already the pieces in place to start to let people use the NFTs that they've collected over the last several months? Because obviously multi-asset support's been around already for a while. So there's NFTs, there's fungible tokens, there's all sorts of stuff already. Is there room now already for folks to use their NFTs as collateral in some of these maybe lending platforms and things like that? What would the process look like for that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of projects are working on that actually. Most famously, Liquid.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually planning to use NFTs as collateral, which makes a lot of sense. And the main thing that we're waiting for are always smart contracts. Now they're
Yeah.
almost there, so we're all getting excited. I'm getting really nervous because now I have to deliver with the NFT Maker version
Yeah.
2, and I'm working all day, but the tools are basically almost there, and the platforms are have been working with them for a bit already.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can basically, it's open source, you can all check that stuff out, and there's the Plutus Pioneer program, so you can learn how to write smart contracts, and then once that there, you can actually just go ahead, write your smart contracts, and then interact with NFTs in there. So send the NFTs to the smart contract, and then the smart contract does whatever it does, which
Nice.
is like the perfect way to go about it, I think.
And that's another interesting point too, is considering the fact that you have these tokens accounted for on the base ledger layer with and minted with a policy. With smart contracts, that's also going to change the way that smart contracts exchange and interact with these tokens, which I assume will probably be, one of the major differences between how Cardano's DeFi ecosystem works and how something like Ethereum's DeFi ecosystem works. Do you know anything about how that's going to work in the time when smart contracts come? Like how it's going to interact with the token ledger layer?
Yeah, it's so cool because when you have like a smart contract and an ERC20 token on Ethereum, you have
Mm-hmm.
like this bunch, this code block basically, and
Yep.
there are some rules defined in there to how to transact with this token and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And to use that in combination with other code and other smart contracts, it's quite complicated. I mean, there are solutions out there yet already because it's very famous, but it's
Mm-hmm.
still quite complicated to embed it into other applications. But on Cardano, because every token is the same, every token is like ADA, you can simply just you can just go ahead and say, okay, token input, and that's it. It's like super
Mm-hmm.
easy, and every single token will be able to do that. Of course, you can set some boundaries, like for example, only these specific tokens can do a certain thing. But the actual building process is so much easier than on any other blockchain, I believe. So it's gonna be a whole new experience. And there are so many applications that can benefit from that because it's just, even if you don't really work with a specific project, you can still just allow the project to use your applications, and then it's just interoperable from the get-go. So
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, I think it's at the very least, it's going to be very interesting to see this come to life as one of the most unique approaches to these same problems that's been out there, right? And there will of course be, despite all of the like excitement, there will of course be like roadblocks and things that don't work as well as people thought, and then they'll have to pivot and think about new solutions. Like that's just the way technology works.
absolutely.
But it's really cool because we've been used to the same paradigm for a while. Even though if you think about crypto as a whole, it's very unique and different and new. But inside of the scope of that, a lot of things are done in a very similar way. And so this is going to be kind of breaking the mold and doing things slightly differently, which I think is very exciting to say the least.
I think so too. I think it's going to be an exciting time. I actually can't wait to see. I feel like it's really the beginning of like a new world almost, and with everything going on in like the real world and
Yeah.
Afghanistan and I mean in Germany we have elections coming up, so Merkel is not going to be there. So
Yeah.
it's all crazy at the moment. But then there's
Yeah.
Cardano, and it's like the it's almost like the bright light in my
Yeah.
life at the
It,
moment. So yeah.
it's a thing to focus on that's not
Mm.
everything else that's going on. I totally get that. I mean, your focus, of course, is on building. I know you've been heads down working extremely hard on NFT Maker. I wanted to take the last like couple minutes here and talk about what's to come there, what some of the new features might be, and what you're looking at in terms of launch for folks. And I'm really excited myself to use the second version.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, we've just gotten Catalyst funding, which I'm very happy about.
Yeah.
So funding is secured, and we're building this marketplace. So it's gonna be like a decentralized marketplace, pretty standard, like similar to OpenSea and other marketplaces with auctions and trading and all that stuff.
Hmm.
Um, just on Cardano. But there's gonna be like this interesting part that I try to highlight all the time, and that's going to be that we focus more on real art, and we realize that many real artists, which don't really are or which are not really into crypto, they don't really like all these platforms like OpenSea, Rarible, and Co. because if you go to the website, it just looks very much like crypto and Ethereum and all this
Hmm.
crazy stuff. So they prefer to have their own shops. And they want to have like white label solutions. So we are
Hmm.
actually working on a way to be like the Shopify of NFTs and basically allow them to create their own stores and to basically just upload the images, then have their own store and use that to promote their own art without people even realizing that it's connected to crypto or connected to NFTs. It's just an art store, and I think that's the way we should go about it, because we have to get the real world users into the scene and not just us crypto fanboys, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, and I completely agree. I think what Cardano needs to do overall is bring in new people that aren't
Yeah,
already in the space. Like the focus shouldn't be on converting Ethereum users. It should be focused on bringing new people in with good, simple user experience, and then seeding a brand new community of creators in a new environment. I think that's the way to go. So I'm really excited about it. I think that there'll be plenty of artists that really want to curate their own shop, their own store, and just want the tech stuff done for them. And so really, really excited. Can't wait to see what it looks like when it comes out. And I wish you the best of luck in in getting this built out.
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much, folks, for watching this episode. If you have any questions about NFTs, about Cardano, about NFT Maker, please leave them in the comments down below. I'll make sure that Patrick gets to see them. And of course, Patrick, thank you for donating your time.
Thank you for having me again. It was great talking to you.
Absolutely, man. It's always a pleasure to have you on the channel. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Until next time, cheers.